Plane is a new action thriller movie that's out in theaters right now. It's directed by Jean-Francois Richet. This is a film that stars Gerard Butler, Mike Colter, you might remember him from Luke Cage. It also stars Tony Braunwyn and Daniela Pineda. You might remember her from one of the Jurassic World movies. The story here follows Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler is playing a pilot named Brody. Brody is trying to pilot a very limited crew of passengers and crew to, I think, Singapore or some other place. I can't remember if it's Singapore or Hong Kong or someplace. There's also somebody being escorted by the FBI on this plane, who's played by Mike Colter. Supposedly he's some kind of dangerous criminal. Well, things go wrong and the plane goes down, and it goes down in a very dangerous area. In this dangerous area, there are separatists and militia leaders and some rebels who take the passengers hostage. Now Brody has to enlist the help of this dangerous FBI transport criminal to try to get his passengers back. And, you know, 90s movie, that's basically what you're watching. You're probably gonna hear this in pretty much every review of Plane, but this is a movie that absolutely feels like it was plucked from back in time and put into 2023. I guess they figured because it's January, they could just dump whatever, but you watch this movie, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is definitely like John McClane levels of 90s action cheese. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You can certainly have fun with throwback movies like this. I do appreciate that the movie, even though, sure, there's some dumb cheesy parts, it takes itself seriously. One of the things that stood out about the direction for this movie is the lack of music. There's a lot of scenes in this film that don't have the kind of generic action movie music that you would think would come associated with the scene. So there's a lot of scenes that for some reason have a lot more suspense because this movie knows when to be quiet and it knows how to ratchet up that tension. When it comes to the action in the movie, it's about what you would expect. The shootouts, the fist fights. There is one scene in particular that feels like a single shot take of this hand-to-hand fight in this dusty old room. Really gritty stuff. I really had a ball watching that scene. But I would say this movie is definitely carried on the shoulders of Gerard Butler and Mike Colter. Like Gerard Butler, he has this thing where sometimes he chooses to be in shitty movies, but then even if he's in a shitty movie, sometimes he commits and sometimes he doesn't because he's like, you know what, this is definitely a shitty movie. Like, I actually felt like he gave a shit. You know, Gerard Butler's one of my favorite guys, so I'm usually interested in movies that he's in anyways. He has that everyman quality to his character in this movie that I think a lot of people are gonna gravitate towards. Mike Colter is really like the badass motherfucker that will do anything to get the job done no matter what it takes. He's the one that's not afraid to get his hands dirty, and they have a very good chemistry and camaraderie with each other. If you're not watching the movie for anything else, you could watch it for Gerard Butler and Mike Colter kind of bounce off of each other going through these action scenes while they're trying to save these people. Like, that's kind of fun. This movie plays out exactly how you would expect. It's not reinventing the wheel or anything. It's not going to blow your mind with something new or innovative or creative that you haven't seen before. Ultimately, it's not one of those movies you need to have a thesis on. You can just kind of turn your brain off and enjoy Gerard Butler and Mike Colter fucking shit up in the jungle, and that's you know, that's a 90s movie. Being that it is a 90s movie, there are going to be some dumbass moments that happen throughout, some weird moments that happen in the screenplay where you're like, that definitely should not have happened. And like I said, it's a 90s movie that's not reinventing the wheel, so that means there's gonna be some parts of the movie that feel predictable to you. You're gonna be able to see certain things coming. The militia people in this movie, I hate to say it, are just kind of a waste of time and oxygen. Like, the villains are just the bad guy villains. They're just the bad guys that the screenplay needs to be bad guys. They're just there to be there. They're just bad guys for the sake of being bad guys, and easily one of the weakest elements of this film. I'll also say that there's a little bit of a pacing issue in the first half of the movie. Not that things aren't happening, but it just feels like it takes a little bit too long for certain things to be happening. It takes a long time for them to get on a plane, takes a long time for the plane to go down, takes a long time for things to happen once they're on the ground. I'm just saying, like, the pacing, they could have quickened some of this stuff up a little bit earlier because the first act is a little bit choppy to get through. I had some fun with Plane. I was gonna go a little bit lower on the rating for this one, but then I was like, nah, Gerard Butler deserves a tiny bit of a dub for this. Plane was a fun, stupid, throwback 90s action film. I'm gonna leave this one in the Daily Planet. Those are my thoughts on Plane. Tell me how many planes you guys have been on in your lives, and tell me what's the craziest place or the most beautiful place that you've ever been to on a plane. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show if you like what you see. Tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.